Hello everyone.
Hello.
Welcome to Profusion. Welcome to Profoto. My name is Yadu. I am a wedding and fashion photographer. I'd like to do that opposite because I am fashion first, then weddings. Starting into the weddings, but it's a lot of fun.
Sorry. Can you guys hear it? Okay.
Can you guys hear me?
Okay. All right.
Yep. Speak louder. Deeper. All right. Anyway, I'm here with Linda. She is my model, but she is also the second shooter. So she's someone that for the last 2-3 years has been shooting alongside with me. So learning all the same things that we're going to be talking about today. This is very much an introduction to lighting, bringing lighting in, starting to balance light with ambient, things like that. That's what we're going to be going over. To give you an idea, this is my information, so Instagram, it'll come up at the end anyway, but email and website if you wanted to check out my work. On my Instagram, when I post an image, I do like to give the details of what camera, what lens, what were the settings, did I use light, was it ambient, was it Profoto, all of that stuff is usually there if you guys want to check that out. So, 8 years ago, my journey started with Profoto through this photographer. Anybody know who this photographer is? Oh, Raph knows. A couple other people know as well. So Joey Lawrence. Joey Lawrence is actually an amazing photographer and very, very young. When he started, he was a kid shooting weddings. So I was really impressed with him, but when I looked at his work, I saw the way the light that he would use, the modifiers that he would use, how it would affect the subject, and I was like, this guy is incredible. Being such a young photographer, he knows what things to buy and what, so I literally went online looking for what modifiers, what lighting system should I get. So again, this is 8 years ago, and 8 years ago, I find this video. I know you can't really see it, so I'm going to read it for you. It says, what portable flash kit should I buy? That was literally my question at the time. At the time, I was using speedlights. So I was coming from shooting Nikon, shooting Sony, and so I had speedlights for them, and I used to just collect speedlights. And any on-location photography, that's what I would be bringing to a location to use. I was frustrated with using AA batteries and having to go through that all day long. For wedding photographers, you know what I'm talking about. Going to Costco and buying the package of 48 and running through them throughout the day. This is normally how we would start. So, like Raph always teaches, my Raph, he likes to start from a clean slate, meaning turn off all the ambient lights and bring in your light. In this case, it's the B10 with a 3-foot modifier. So in my presentation, you're going to see what light I was using, what modifier I was using. So even though this is really dark, this was the actual exposure in camera. So this is what I'm seeing. There is no window light here in this specific room. And so for me, I'm adding the light. It's 100%. The light that's hitting her is the light of this modifier, the 3-foot octa, and a B10. So this is the setup. This next one is of Linda. You can see again. Most of these, by the way, will be at Mint Room Studios. They have a booth, 2 booths down. They're the studio that I shoot at all the time. So check them out. They've got discounts as well. But here again, complete darkness. And I'm popping the light, and the light that's affecting the model is specifically coming from the light and modifier. But what happens when you want to start to balance the light? And this is where a lot of photographers start to get nervous about adding the light, because they're like, is it going to be too strong? How am I going to be able to overcome the sun? They're trying to do that. Well, in this case, the way that I start is I don't care about the subject. All I'm looking at is the background. And there is going to be a difference here when you talk about background, because technically what she's leaning on is the background. But that, because of the proximity to her, is also going to be affected by the light that I shoot with. So when I refer to background, I'm talking about deep background. I'm talking about the sky. I'm talking about really back there, where the light that I'm going to be using doesn't have the power to affect that far distance. So in this case, this is using the A10. which is this little guy here. And behind you in the corner, there is the little click softbox. I love that little modifier because, again, it's just for portability's sake. Speaking about speedlights, because that's how I kind of started, what really frustrated me about speedlights was the AA batteries. I love the fact that this has a lithium battery and that it's easy in, easy out. I don't have to fumble with 4 batteries, knowing which way to put them and all that. It's just very good. And the recycle time, that was another big improvement that I really liked about that. So in this case, again, I'm only affecting the model with the light that I'm bringing into it. Now, it doesn't mean that as soon as I turn on the flash, I get this result. Various different ways that you can get to that. You could use a light meter. I don't. I used it a long time ago, but not anymore. Because now I just realize that it's just trial and error. I'll take the first picture with the flash set to 5, let's say, and if it's too bright, I'll dial it down. 2 ways of dialing it down. I can either go to the light itself and dial it down on the actual flash, or with the A10 and the B10X and B10, I can use my cell phone, go onto the cell phone and change the power directly from there. Sometimes your light is very high up that you don't have the access, that you can go and actually change the light, or it's inconvenient to constantly be going up and down. So I can adjust the light using the cell phone app as well. And dialing it in, I get this result. So maybe a couple of images I'll take, and then I'll get this result, and I'm like, perfect, now we're good. So I usually tell the model, I'm testing for light right now, so you don't have to pose. And that's why we're actually having a conversation during this time, and that's why she's just kind of chatting. But to show you guys kind of the before and after of that look. Here's Linda. We're in a great park in Mississauga here. And again, it was fall colors. This was last year. And so I'm taking this picture. This modifier is literally here. It's just out of frame. I'm going to move very quickly so we don't get too bad. So the sun that you can see, I'll take it out of the way. Thanks. The sun is coming in from the back. And so you actually see that the sun is hitting this side and bouncing light back. I think we should take it off. All right, now we'll continue. So what the exposure is on her face is actually the reflected light. So this is just acting like a reflector, bouncing the light back into her face. So in this case, I don't really need to blast the light on her, but I do want to eliminate the shadows in her face. So even though this is really close to her, I'm actually dialing down the power of that light very strong, so that it can just give a hint of light on her face, but I can keep that exposure of the background and also that hair light that the sun is providing. So even though I'm just using the 1B10, this is technically a 2-light setup. So what if you do the opposite? So in this case, I brought the exposure up to get the correct exposure on the model. What happens to the background? The background goes bright as well. So in this case, I'm looking at a couple of things. I can move her position, so maybe that the light doesn't hit her on cross light and you don't get all the shadows. I can move her in the position of the ambient light, or I can introduce the flash and darken the background. So I'll go back 2 slides to where I darken the background with my exposure, I'm ignoring how the light is hitting her, and then I will put the light on her face. And again, dial it in. To me, that second photo has more impact. The background is darker, which makes her stand out. And that's kind of what I was going for there, instead of the one on the left. Now, when you see them side by side, I could color correct that first image, make it a little warmer, and it looks kind of flat, just because the same light that's hitting her is also hitting the background. So there isn't that 3D effect that you get in photography. So on the right, that's more my liking. This was all, again, a lot of the pictures are going to be based on preference. Here, this is what I call enhancing the direction of ambient light. This was the original image. We are up in Keswick, trying to make this look like Barbados. I hope we fooled you all. It was actually a cold day. This was September of 2 years ago, and she's freezing, but she really wanted these surf photos. So I was like, I'm going to be well dressed. You do you. And so in this case, the sun is already going down, which means that it's colder for her. But I can see how the sun, as it's going down, is hitting her in this picture. So what do I want to do? I want to position my light in the same angle or from the same direction as where the sun is coming from, and I'm going to enhance that. So with this next image, you will see that, and I'm still using that same 3-foot octa. You're going to start to notice that 3-foot octa is like my best friend. The larger the modifier, the better. It's just that the larger, it becomes less portable. And so I'm kind of in this balance of getting the biggest that I can comfortably move around from location to location. But something like this, again, all I care about is how that light is affecting her. And because it's coming in from the same side as the sun, I'm trying to fool you into thinking, oh, that was just a beautiful sunset hitting her face, when it was the Profoto light. Another photo at Mintroom Studios, and in this case, you're going to see that Mintroom has these beautiful windows, very big windows. And so I could leave this the way it is. I think it looks great. It's properly exposed, and that window light is hitting her correctly. The one thing that you can do is, because the window can't move, I can really only position the model in certain ways in order to get that Rembrandt look, or if I want direct. So I can't really move the light source because the light source is there. So for me, enhancing that light is taking the window light and then bringing my light just around. And this one is very slight, but it's just turning up a little bit more on her face to fill in the shadow side a little bit more. So it's dialed down drastically because I'm using primarily that ambient light, and this is just a touch more. I can really only see this while I'm shooting through the viewfinder, and I'm constantly going back and forth, before and after, before and after. Do I like it? Do I not like it? So it's like cooking where you're just adding some more spices to how you like it, how you want the result to end up. Once I've dialed it in, then we continue.
So I just want to talk about...
This is another one. She's sitting on the floor. Up and to the left is a window, and it's coming down on her. So I positioned her in order to get that type of lighting. Now in this case, I'm going to overcome the light. I don't really need any of what you see here. In this case, when the other picture comes up, there we go. You'll see that with this one, I do want to flood that picture, and it affects her and the background. So this is where I was talking about proximity, that because she is so close to her background, that light that hits her also affects the background. So I don't get that same darkened background here just because of how close she is to the background. Once again, Linda, sitting in her second favorite room at Mintroom. This is the conservatory, the white room. And again, here, she probably does not like this image, but you have window light coming in, and all I want to do with this test shot is see how is my window light affecting. Now, here's the thing. There's windows behind her, and there's windows adjacent to her right here, basically pushing it this way. So because of her angle, it's getting her on the left side, the right side of her face. And again, I want to position my light just a little bit, but have that same direction of light. But I also don't want to affect that background as much. And you'll notice that with this light, it does brighten up the background, but not drastically. So again, just filling in the shadows of the face, but it's the same direction of light.
And this is just, showing you different ways of how...
This was 2 weeks ago. This is the Christmas setup there. It's amazing. And again, she is directly facing the window. So literally, the motion is her just rocking back and forth to the window, and all I want to do is fill in with that soft light. You'll notice that yes, her dress changes because now the light is affecting the dress and the color of the dress. It's affecting her skin, but to me, that's a very nice, pleasing, soft light.
At the same time,
this is now overtaking the direction of ambient light. So again, on its own, I like this image. This is just using window light. And it looks great. I like the ambiance of it. It is its own look. But now I'm going to use that same direction of light but really pop that light and make it really pop. And so again, you have these two images, same time, but with much more power in that light, and you have two completely different looks that are achieved. For me, I always call the photo on the right like magazine quality. For me, it's more production on that side, but there's nothing wrong with the first one. This is now preference. And a lot of natural light photographers will say, oh no, I really like the one on the left, I think that's good. Maybe if you brighten it up a bit, maybe you can just increase your ISO, get it a little bit brighter in the room. The thing that we don't have control over is weather and whether the lighting helps you. Yesterday, we did a photo shoot. Yesterday, we got to the studio and the sun had gone down. So we were 100% flash only, and that's because of that. If you show up to your day and you're only counting on natural light and it's cloud cover, you're like, great, it looks like I'm going to be boosting my ISO drastically in order to compensate for the fact that you're not getting that window light that you normally get. This is another one where I'm exposing for the background. Now, it's not that their background is anything interesting. It's just that for me, when someone is sitting in front of a window and you brighten that up, all you get is that bright light that comes out and it just looks overexposed that's coming in. Again, it's a look, it's preference, but for me, I would rather bring down the exposure of the background and then pop some light in so that I can get that color difference in the shot.
I can show you 7200 alongside 35
Oh, there we go. We didn't touch anything. Great. Patterns of light. This is another way of balancing. So I like to shoot wide open. That's a preference of mine. If I can shoot at 1.4, 1.8, I probably will. But for a lot of do's and don'ts, when you're shooting beauty and you're trying to get makeup, you'd want to shoot at 5.6, f8, f11, because you're trying to get all the surface of the face. And that's another choice that you make. But with these photos, I like to shoot wide open. You won't get a pattern like this on the floor unless you stop down your aperture. So you're at the sync speed, 1/200. If you're shooting at 1.4, that floor just goes to white. So what do I have to do? I have to bring this to a 5.6 or an f8. I can see the pattern on the floor. I position her, she's completely in silhouette, and then I use the flash to illuminate her. One thing that I do, and again, this is just myself, is I try to position the person outside of the pattern, because if I put them in the pattern, not only do I have to then deal with the sun that's hitting them directly, but maybe there's going to be those shadows that the pattern creates. Again, that's preference. There is another, those chairs that look like mesh chairs, where I use them all the time to create a pattern on the face, like that's intentional. But in this case, it's doing this. Now, this next one, this actually works. There we go. This was challenging. So the first photo was beginning of the day. Second photo is sun going down, coming in and out of clouds. So I was here shooting with Linda, and every time I saw the pattern appear on the wall, I'm like, wait, let's go. And so again, we knew where I wanted her to place her, outside of the pattern here. And so outside of the pattern, and I wanted that same direction of light. So again, I put the light on the same angle coming in from where that sunlight is coming in. Hopefully, again, you're fooled into thinking that's window light hitting her. It's not. It's that guy. And so I'm shooting this, and within 2 or 3 frames, sun goes behind clouds, and it's all over. And we just have to go back to the way we were shooting before at a different aperture. Using the modeling lamp. Now, I have to say a caveat, because here I'm shooting with the B10, which has a really good modeling lamp, but the B10X is now 33% brighter as a modeling lamp. So if you were using that as the main light, you could now with the B10X, which is something that with this one, I kind of, again, a modeling lamp is just so you can see how the light's going to affect the model. But even this on itself, again, if I wanted to just brighten it up, that would be great. But for me, I do like that more punchy look that the light offers. with the modifier that I'm using now. And again, the first shot with the Mullen lamp is really just exposing for the background, and then the next one is where I bring in that light. So this is kind of the setup of multiple lights. So even though it's kind of hard to see, this image has two Profoto lights. The first one, this one, is actually really, really close to her, so it's just out of frame. But the second one is much further away, also with a modifier, a 2-foot modifier. And both of them have their Mullen lamps on in this photograph. So the light that you see on her face is actually the Mullen lamp hitting her face, and on her back, that very light is being hit by the Mullen lamp from the back. So here's where I do that first set. I want to actually take the first picture with only using that backlight to see how just the backlight is hitting her. How does it affect her? Am I getting some creep light that's going onto her face? No, the light that's on her face is still the Mullen lamp. And I can see on her skirts, on her back, and on her hair, that's the influence of that rear light. Then from there, I then do the next one, which is that front light. So now I get that front light hitting her with that back light. And so this is how I've built this scenario with the two lights. And again, this was a very cold winter's day, so I wanted to get that blue in the background coming in from the windows. If it would have been frosty on the windows, that would have been perfect, but it wasn't. Another example, I have the Mullen lamp on in the front, and in the back, I've already fired the flash to see how that's influencing on the back, and then the actual photograph having those two sandwiched. So what I would do wrong at the beginning is I would have both lights set up, and then I would fire. Then I wouldn't know what's influencing what. Is the background crossing over with the front? How is that combination? And that's when I just started separating. I said, okay, I'm going to do one at a time. If I had a 5-light setup, it would take longer, but I would want to see how each light is affecting the subject if there's any crossover. So balancing when your window is the key light. So in this case, again, at Mint Room, big window light. She's standing directly in front of the window, and I'm standing directly in front of her. So this is just window light hitting her. And then I want to bring in this case, this is a 1x3. So why choose a 1x3 instead of an octa again? I just didn't want it in the frame. So it's the profile that's very slim that I can put in the background, and I can just angle either away or towards, just so that it's not in the frame. And now it's just affecting her hair light, her shoulder, and along the side of her body, and that's it. I could, if I wanted to, put one on the other side as well, and get that same kind of rim look on the opposite side as well. So again, you can build up the shot as you want. I know a lot of sports photographers, this is their bread and butter. They've got two lights hitting really strong. It's overexposed on those lights. It carves out the face, carves out the physique, and then they've got a nice soft light in the front. So again, that's a preference. Positioning of your light and feathering. So, this is where I'm going to start moving around. This first shot, I actually really like the way it looks. So this is where she is. This is where the light is, where her face is on this side. And what you're getting there, you can see on her nose where the shadows are falling on the nose. And you also get the shadows on her cheek that's kind of pronouncing her cheekbones. I like that shot. There's nothing wrong with that shot. All that I'm doing then is I'm feathering this to the opposite side, putting the larger side of the softbox on this side of her face, and then you get that. So again, in both cases, it's literally just moving the softbox from one side to another, and you're getting two different looks. Both of them I like. Me personally, I like the second one better, but both of them are really good. Positioning the lights when it's the model. So I've had this happen many times where I've positioned my light in the exact spot that I want, and the model then, light being over here, grab the light, put it right over here, and that's what we did here. So I let her be in her brooding sense and in all of her performance, and all I did was just move the light in order to get this shot. Again, nothing wrong with the first shot. The model actually really liked that first shot because again, it has that atmosphere, that kind of rawness to it. That's her preference. My preference is the one on the left because again, we're kind of showcasing the makeup here. So sometimes it's based on reflections. In this case, I accounted for the hard beauty dish. Where's the hard beauty dish? I think it's behind you there, right here. It's one of my favorites, again, for in studio. But this hard beauty dish is coming down, and so I positioned the watch to face down so that I wouldn't get the reflection of the modifier, but I didn't account for the table, which acts like a reflection that's bouncing the light back into the watch. So in this case, all I asked is that she rotate her wrist slightly. And as soon as she rotates her wrist, then I get a clean shot of the watch. So when you talk about reflections, usually you're talking about people that are wearing glasses and things like that. So that's one of them. With reflections, in this case, I just then turned on the modeling lamp of that hard beauty dish. And that way I can see through the camera whether or not there is a reflection either of the table or of the light in order to eliminate it so that when I actually take the photo with the flash, I don't get any of those reflections on that glass surface. But talking about this was a really difficult shot. So this is up, the light goes up. And I can just adjust, bring the light higher, and you don't get the reflections there. You still get the catch lights of the modifier in her eye, but not on the glass surface. Now, the one challenging, there are certain glasses that are curved. That's a challenge. In some cases, we'll just have that removed altogether, if it's like a corporate headshot. Because then, when you have those glasses that are domed, any angle, you'll still get that reflection on the top. So again, it depends on the type of glasses that the person's using. So now we're actually going to go into the modifiers. So here, it's all about the catch lights. This is something really small and significant. It's almost like talking about bokeh. Photographers love bokeh. It's the area of the photo that you're not supposed to be looking. The subject's in the front, the bokeh's in the back, but oh, look how creamy that bokeh looks. It's amazing. People want that creamy bokeh. Same thing here. This photo is actually like a 3/4 length photo. So I'm already zoomed in to kind of showcase that, and I'm going to zoom in even further so you can see that hard dish, that the way that catch light is. It's nice and round in her eye. So this modifier I like for things like beauty, things like makeup, again, because it gives you that specular highlight on the skin. I like it, but it's also based on that catch light. In this case as well, once again, this is a combination of the small 2-foot octa and also the window light on the side. Don't tell this model that I zoomed in this much. I'm sure she wouldn't like it. But you can clearly see modifier and the window in her eyes. And I am looking for those catch lights. Like, I do want them to be there in her eyes. Again, it brings life to the photo. There are types of photos where the person might be in shade and you don't have them, and the eyes to me still look dead. A photographer that I know would actually have like an LED light, and even if there was no shadow, they would just shine that just to get some type of reflection back. Even if it's a small LED, you can use your cell phone light just to get a catch light in the eye. And too far. Here we go. So here, this is actually a full body shot. Linda was good enough to lie on a table. And again, just a close-up to show what the 3-foot octa looks like shooting straight down at her on her face. Catch light here, again, mint room, where you've got 3-foot octa in combination with the window light, that they're both coming from the same direction. This is combination of reflector and the 3-foot. So here, just having the reflector underneath, getting rid of some of the shadows underneath her face, but it creates a unique catch light of getting the octabox in the front and the reflector along the bottom. So this is something that I'll use also for headshots and things like that, but I really like the way that looks in the eyes. This was Raf's setup 2 years ago at Profusion. Very small because it's really at the rim. She has her head tilted down, but you have the beauty dish, and what's on the lower part of her eye is actually the ground. So in this studio, the ground was light gray, so that light is hitting her, hitting the ground, bouncing up, and also creating a unique catch light in her eye as well. So for me, the decision of modifiers, which one do I use? Usually a 3-footer could be 3/4 or full body. If I'm actually going to use a 2-footer or something like this is like the 2-foot beauty dish, the OCF version. And something like this would be, for me, like a headshot. Again, I want to bring the modifier as close to her as possible. So using something like this or something like this, my preference will always be the bigger modifier, my preference. And that goes back to when I was looking at Joey Lawrence's photos. When I would see the end result of his work, I was like, what is he using to get that type of lighting? It was very soft light, very impactful, and I realized he would actually go on location with really big modifiers. So he was willing to trade off carrying really big modifiers in order to get that light to look exactly the way he wants, that very soft light. I don't use a lot of Magnum reflectors, some of the harder lights and things like that. That's not necessarily my style. This is more my style and what I like to use, and as small as I get is 2 feet. If I could, if it was portable, I would probably go with 4 or 5 feet modifiers. That is the end of my presentation.